What's going on here, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are going to do another villain playlist. If you have been on my channel, you know that we have been working on different playlists for different villains across the Marvel universe. So, for example, we have one for Magneto, we have one for Tombstone, and we just made one now for Morlan. But today, we are going to do, of course, one for Hammerhead. And the reason why, because Hammerhead is one of those villains not every single Spider-Man fan knows of. Like, most of the Spider-Man fans know of him, but not every single one of them. Because he was a character who first appeared in the early days of Spider-Man comics as a very interesting character, and fans actually liked that character. But over time, he kind of fell off. And matter of fact, it got to a point where there were some times he was being used more as a way of a henchman for other villains than actually being on his two own feet. And so now I want to sit down, create a playlist so that fans can actually learn more about this character. Because honestly, he was a cool character when he first appeared. And when I first learned about him, it was back in the Spider-Man PlayStation 1 games. And honestly, in those games, it kind of led me to want to know more about the character. But either way, here is the first appearance of Hammerhead ever in Marvel Comics. And so to begin today's video, we actually pick up with Amazing Spider-Man number 112. Now, with Amazing Spider-Man number 112, we are not going to see Hammerhead in this chapter. And the reason why, because this is the first part of the overall story we are going to cover in this video, but Hammerhead appears in the second chapter of this storyline, which is Amazing Spider-Man number 113. But either way, with Amazing Spider-Man number 112, we actually pick up with Spider-Man dropping off a villain that he had defeated in an earlier book at a hospital. And of course, he does begin the process of swinging away. But while he is doing that right there, he begins to think about Aunt May. And this is going to be very important for this storyline, because in a previous storyline, Peter Parker came home one day and Aunt May, being Aunt May, trying to take care of her nephew, kind of got in a little argument, not really an argument, but a conversation with Gwen Stacy, where Gwen Stacy kind of told Aunt May that she's too overprotective when it comes to Peter Parker, especially right now with him being an adult. And so Aunt May kind of realized that Gwen Stacy was right. And so with that, Aunt May just disappeared. She left a note for Peter Parker saying that she is going to step away to give Peter Parker some space. And so right now she had disappeared, and Peter Parker has no idea where his Aunt May is at. And so right now he's out there looking for her. But while going around town, that is the moment he does hear some noise. And what's happening is right now there are different crimes happening across the area that Spider-Man is in. Now, usually when it comes to Spider-Man, he would go down there and actually stop those crimes. But he's not going to this time. And the reason why, because to Peter Parker, he feels like if he goes down there and actually try to stop all these different crimes in this area, it's less time for him to spend to find Aunt May, because that's his main concern right now, finding Aunt May. Aunt May is out there somewhere. She won't talk to me. She won't answer my calls. I have to find her. And so I am going to let these crimes continue as a way to spend more time to find her. And honestly, that is going to be also very important for this storyline, that Spider-Man is not helping people anymore because he's trying to find his Aunt May. Now, when Peter Parker does get over to the Daily Bugle, that is the moment he comes to find out that J. Jonah Jameson is already publishing a story where basically he's saying that Spider-Man is a coward, because word got out that Spider-Man did not try to help innocent people when they did need some help. Now, on top of that, you would think that J. Jonah Jameson would actually want to help out Peter Parker to find his Aunt May. But to JJ, he's kind of like, listen, We all got problems. And on top of that, you have a job to do. And so with that, I'm mad at you because you have not produced a good photograph of Spider-Man. So I need you to go out there and do your job actually. Now you do have Robbie Robertson try to cheer up Peter Parker, but then you have Robbie say, listen, I looked over the letter that your aunt wrote, and it does look like she wrote that letter. It does look like she's not in danger. She was not kidnapped. It's her saying goodbye to you. So honestly, if you want to find her, let the police do their job to hopefully find her. Now, when Peter Parker actually does leave the Daily Bugle, he does run into Mary Jane and her aunt. And this makes sense because in the Amazing Spider-Man comics, Aunt May and Mary Jane's aunt, they were basically like best friends. And so when Aunt May disappeared, of course, her best friend is trying to find her. But this conversation does lead into Peter Parker thinking about one certain thing. Did somebody find out that he was Spider-Man? Because he still believes that something has happened to Aunt May, that there could be a possibility she was kidnapped. And then when you have Mary Jane say, hey, listen, it's not like you have enemies out there who are trying to get back at you, but she has no idea that Peter Parker is Spider-Man yet. And so, of course, you have Peter Parker thinking that somebody found out that he was Spider-Man and, of course, went after Aunt May. And so now he's out there looking for some clues that could possibly show him that, hey, someone found out that he was Spider-Man and they kidnapped Aunt May because of that. But while you have Spider-Man right now swinging around town looking for Aunt May, he realized he still needs to do his job, which is take photos of himself. And so you do have Spider-Man realize there is a crime nearby and he should actually handle that crime and also get photos of himself as well. And so when he does take out the thug, he begins the process of actually asking the thug some questions. And one of those questions is, why in the world is crime going so wild right now in this area? Because more crime is being committed in this area now lately. What in the world is going on? And of course, that is the moment you have this guy tell Spider-Man that there is a gang war happening in this area. Two gangs fighting against one another. Now, we have no idea who the two bosses are just yet, but we are going to learn as we go through this book. But this guy does not want to tell Spider-Man who his boss is and who his boss is fighting against. Now, as Spider-Man swings away, there is another crime happening nearby. And so, of course, you have Spider-Man jump back down there again to stop this crime over here. But here comes the problem, though. When he does get down there to stop these thugs who are breaking into a random building and where he thinks that he has the edge over them because he is Spider-Man, he has powers, and these guys are regular people, he comes to find out these guys actually came prepared. And matter of fact, their boss knew that Spider-Man could possibly put his nose in their business. And so, of course, their boss gave them some kind of harness that makes them fast and strong, almost as strong as fast as Spider-Man. But of course, when one of the thugs actually punched Spider-Man in the face, it of course hurts him really bad and makes all his senses go crazy. Where of course he's very dizzy, he can't think straight. It's just a hard hit that he was not prepared for. But once he comes back to, the thugs have disappeared, but they have left the harness behind, which of course gave that guy the ability to be as fast, as strong as Spider-Man. Now, after that, you do have Peter Parker realizing that he should possibly study the harness to see who in the world had actually made it. But that is the moment we come to find out who is one of the two bad guys for this storyline. And of course, that bad guy is no other than Doc Ock. He's one of the two bosses right now fighting in that gang war. And so now the question is, who is the other boss who's part of this gang war? But of course, you do have Doc Ock wanting to fight Spider-Man because once again, Spider-Man is all up in his business. And so getting into Amazing Spider-Man number 113, we actually do pick up with Doc Ock fighting against Spider-Man. We saw it coming. Now, with that being said, though, we have to remember that Spider-Man was hit pretty hard by one of the thugs of Doc Ock. But there's something else I do want to mention, because Aunt May has been missing for a good period of time before this video. And so Peter Parker is literally exhausted as well. And even before Aunt May had disappeared, there were earlier stories that had Spider-Man out late doing different things as Spider-Man. And so literally back-to-back stories, Peter Parker has been out left and right. So he's badly hurt right now and literally exhausted. Like, he is super exhausted right now. And so Doc Ock actually has the edge over Spider-Man in this fight. And this fight does last for a few pages, but it's really more of Spider-Man just trying to survive, because he knows he cannot take on Doc Ock at this moment. Now, there is a moment you have Doc Ock actually being able to pull the mask off of Spider-Man, but you have Peter Parker shoot some webs in his eyes so that Doc Ock cannot learn that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But you do have Peter Parker actually leave the scene to hopefully get away to recover, because he knows if he stays there, Doc Ock could possibly kill him off so easily. And so you have Spider-Man leave his mask with Doc Ock. Now, Doc Ock actually drops the mask, and the mask is found by Robbie Robertson's son, actually, which is Randy Robertson, a close friend of Peter Parker, but again, the son of Robbie Robertson. But of course, he'll take that mask home to his father. But when Doc Ock actually gets back to his base, that is the moment you have Doc Ock get a phone call from a random thug that actually works for him. And this thug tells Doc Ock that they were able to locate the location of the other boss, so that Doc Ock can win this war by taking out this other boss that we still have no idea who he is. Now, of course, this is a trap, because this thug had actually taken some money to portray Doc Ock, so that when Doc Ock arrives at this location, this other boss of this war could take out Doc Ock. But of course, Doc Ock knew that this was a trap. He knew it was a trap. He was like, no, this is a trap. There's no way you were able to find the location of this other boss. And so when he gets there, you have Doc Ock actually take out all the thugs that work for this other boss who's part of this gang war. But getting back over to Peter Parker, you do have Peter Parker finally getting back home to his apartment to get some rest, but he's confronted by Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy. And of course, you have Gwen Stacy very worried about her man. Like, hey, dude, what's wrong with you? You're very exhausted. You're tired. You look sick. Like, I know Aunt May is missing, but you have to get some rest. And also, Gwen Stacy does call in the family doctor for him and Aunt May. And you have the family doctor look over Peter Parker to make sure he's okay, which of course he's not. But you have this doctor tell Gwen Stacy that Peter Parker must stay in bed for at least like 3 days. And you got to watch over him. And of course, you have Gwen kind of like, I'm going to do it because he's my man. I want to see him alive and well. And so Peter Parker is being forced to rest. But of course, Peter Parker does not listen to instructions at all. And so he does put on his Spider-Man outfit and he does go back out as Spider-Man. But he goes by the Daily Bugle to hopefully get more information about Aunt May. Now, when he gets there, he comes to find out that J. Jonah Jameson has the mask of Spider-Man pinned to the wall. Because remember, Doc Ock dropped the mask. Randy Robertson found it, but of course, Randy handed the mask over to Robbie, who works for J. Jonah Jameson. And of course, to JJ, he's kind of like, is Spider-Man finally defeated? Hopefully so. But either way, though, that's the moment you have Ned Leeds actually hand Peter Parker a note that could possibly help him find Aunt May. Because remember, Aunt May was not kidnapped. She just walked away. And Peter Parker is kind of thinking that as well. But that is the moment you have Ned Leeds say, nah, man, listen, I heard about some kind of agency in a certain part of New York. And of course, Aunt May could possibly gone there to look for a job. And so you have Peter Parker like, cool, I'm going to go there to hopefully find Aunt May. Now, on his way there, he does stop by a nearby store to get a new mask because, of course, he lost his mask to Doc Ock and JJ has it right now. But, of course, he does get a new mask from a nearby store. But that is the moment you have Doc Ock actually surprise attack Spider-Man. Now with this attack, Doc Ock still has the edge over Spider-Man because Spider-Man is exhausted. He's still recovering from all the different injuries that he had received over the last couple stories. And so of course, Doc Ock could actually win this battle and could actually kill off Spider-Man to finally get done with fighting him over and over again. Except that is the moment you have Spider-Man actually put on the harness that Doc Ock made for his thugs. Because remember, these harness gave a regular person the ability to move fast and also be stronger than usual. And so of course you have Peter Parker put on that harness as a way to help him move, but to also still be strong enough to fight against Doc Ock. And so their battle does go on for a couple more pages, and you have Spider-Man actually being able to defeat Doc Ock. And you would think the story would end here, but let's not forget, we're right in the middle of a gang war, and we have no idea who that other boss is. But that is the moment you have the other boss actually appear to hopefully kill off Doc Ock. And that other boss is no other than Hammerhead. And so, of course, we actually do jump over to Amazing Spider-Man number 114. Now, with Amazing Spider-Man number 114, we actually do pick up with Spider-Man fighting against Hammerhead and his thugs. Now, this fight, it does go on for a few more pages. And honestly, it's kind of cool to see Hammerhead showing off his ability to kind of fight against Spider-Man. Because what I mean is that when you see Hammerhead, he looks like a regular thug, and it does look like a thug that Spider-Man could actually defeat very easily if he just hits the guy in the head one time. But of course, we have to remember, Spider-Man is exhausted. Spider-Man is still recovering from his injuries. On top of that, when he does go to punch Hammerhead in the face, you have Hammerhead kind of like, nope, that is not going to work as well as you think it would, because my head has a certain kind of metal inside of it, which of course makes my head very hard. Hence the name Hammerhead, meaning that you may hit my head as many times as you want to, but your hand, your legs, whatever you use to hit my head will basically hurt your body more than me. And so you have Peter Parker get another injury thanks to him hitting the head of Hammerhead. But while the fight is going on, Doc Ock was able to actually lead the fight, but then Spider-Man is knocked out by Hammerhead and captured by Hammerhead. Now, this actually does lead into the actual origin of Hammerhead, because you do have Spider-Man wake up and being confronted by Hammerhead. And of course, they're in Hammerhead's base. Now, with that, you have Hammerhead actually ask Spider-Man to join his side to take out Doc Ock. But after that, you have Hammerhead kind of give us his origin story. Now, his origin is not very clear in this video. And what I mean by that is basically you have Hammerhead say, listen, I was in bad shape when some doctor found me on the ground outside of some random store. But that doctor realized that he could possibly save me. And so he took me back over to his laboratory, where of course he did surgery on me, which of course he put that special kind of metal inside the head of Hammerhead. Now, the thing was though, Hammerhead does not remember who he was before the surgery, meaning that when it came to Jack Harrow, neither did him or Hammerhead remember his true identity before Jack Harrow, the doctor, found him. But either way, Hammerhead said the reason why he's like a thug, a gangster, is because right before he was knocked out, he remembers seeing an Al Capone poster, which of course was a famous gangster, a famous mobster. And that poster kind of led into Hammerhead becoming who he is right now, a mobster in New York City. Now, that is the moment you do have Doc Ock actually go back to his base we saw earlier in this video, except this time he was actually being followed by one of the men of Hammerhead, which of course that guy does call up Hammerhead to tell him, hey, we were able to find the location of Doc Ock's base. What do you want to do, boss? And of course you have Hammerhead saying, oh cool, I'll be right there because we are finally going to end this war between him and I. Now, with that being said, because Spider-Man is still exhausted and still recovering from his injuries, Spider-Man can't do much to actually stop Hammerhead. And so you have Hammerhead tell his thugs that were with him to stay here at his base to watch over Spider-Man, because when Hammerhead gets back, him and Spider-Man are going to have a long conversation. Now, you do have Spider-Man realize that he has to force himself to fight. And so you have Spider-Man actually get back up, fight against the thugs who were assigned to watch over him by Hammerhead so that he can stop Hammerhead and Doc Ock, because there is a possibility that innocent people could possibly get hurt. On top of that, Spider-Man wants to have Hammerhead and Doc Ock lock up as well. And so you have Spider-Man fight against the thugs that were assigned to watch over him, and then he leaves the base of Hammerhead, finds one of the cars that Hammerhead thugs use, and follows that car to hopefully lead him over to the location of Doc Ock's base, which of course he does land right into Doc Ock's base. But this is the moment we get our big surprise. Now, once Spider-Man does arrive at the base of Doc Ock, he does go inside to hopefully find Doc Ock or to hopefully find Hammerhead. Now, while he's doing that though, that is the moment we come to find out that this base that Doc Ock has been using is just some random mansion out in the outskirts of New York. But here comes the big shocker though, because while he's walking around the place, he's hit in the head by some glass vase by an unknown person. Now we have to remember, Spider-Man is still exhausted, he's also badly injured, and so that hit in the head actually did a number to him. But while he's knocked out, that is the moment we come to find out who did knock out Spider-Man, and that person is no other than Aunt May. Aunt May is working for Doc Ock. And so we do actually jump into Amazing Spider-Man number 115. Now with this book right here, the first few pages is really more everybody just freaking out, because Aunt May is freaking out, because remember, when it came to Aunt May in the early days of Marvel Comics, she looked at Spider-Man as a bad guy because she had no idea that Spider-Man is her nephew, Peter Parker. And so with her knocking out Spider-Man, she's kind of like, yes, I did something great. But on top of that, she's kind of like, but this is Spider-Man and I only heard bad things about him, so I'm very concerned on what I should do with him. Now, with that being said though, while that's going on, Hammerhead arrives at the base of Doc Ock. And so now the gang war is actually here at the base of Doc Ock. Now, Doc Ock was smart. He locked himself up in a safe room as a way to get away from Hammerhead and his thugs. But then you have Hammerhead actually using his Hammerhead to try to break open the door that leads into the safe room of Doc Ock. Now, Aunt May, she's not in that safe room, and Doc Ock, he knows that. Now, if you're wondering why in the world Aunt May is working for Doc Ock, well, let me explain, because there have been a lot of times where Aunt May was actually attracted to Doc Ock. And there was a lot of times that Doc Ock was actually attracted to Aunt May. And so it makes sense for them to basically do this one more time, where Aunt May got a job for working for the man she actually likes a tad bit. But either way, though, you have all these different things going on. Now, Aunt May, she runs away. But of course, when Spider-Man wakes up, he realized that, hey, I think I just saw Aunt May, and I think she's the one who knocked me out. But I can't really focus on that right now because the gang war is actually here, and I need to stop that gang war right now. Now, this is where we actually are going to wrap up the storyline, because you actually do have Spider-Man realize he should attack each villain in a one-on-one battle. And so you do have Spider-Man actually go after Hammerhead first. Now this fight right here, it does last for a few pages, and you do have Hammerhead and Spider-Man go back and forth in this fight, but it actually does end up with Hammerhead winning the fight, but actually running away from Spider-Man because he realized if he stayed behind to continue to fight against Spider-Man, there is a possibility that Spider-Man could actually win the battle. And so you have Hammerhead just use his Hammerhead to kind of defeat Spider-Man, or to temporarily defeat Spider-Man long enough for him to run away to see Spider-Man another day. But then you have Spider-Man actually fight against Doc Ock, something we have seen over and over again in this storyline, but also over the years of Marvel Comics. Now this fight, it does last for a good few pages, and except for Doc Ock actually winning this time, you actually have Spider-Man winning this fight, because of course we gotta put at least one bad guy away, and that one bad guy will be Doc Ock. Now with that being said though, you do have Aunt May actually pull a gun on Spider-Man, because remember, she's attracted to Doc Ock. She actually likes this guy, and so she pulls a gun on Spider-Man because she believes Spider-Man is the bad guy. But you have Spider-Man being able to dodge the bullet and jump out the window before Aunt May is able to shoot him again. But after all of that right there, you do have Gwen Stacy, Ned Leeds, and the police arrive at the scene, and Spider-Man does change back into his Peter Parker outfit and reappear at the scene as well. But with everyone getting there, of course, you do have Aunt May kind of sad because Doc Ock does get arrested because, hey, he is a bad guy and the police arrive, so he gotta go. Now, if you're wondering why Ned Leeds and Gwen Stacy are there, you have to remember Ned Leeds did give Peter Parker a location earlier, and that location was, of course, this place right here. And so when Peter Parker disappeared once again for a good period of time, Gwen Stacy and Ned Leeds realized they had to come here. And of course, it worked out for them. Now, this actually does lead into an awkward conversation between Aunt May and Peter Parker. Because remember, the reason why Aunt May had disappeared is because Gwen Stacy had yelled at Aunt May and saying that you're overbearing, you're overprotective over Peter Parker. You don't treat him like a grown man. If you want to treat him like a grown man, then actually treat him like a grown man. And so Gwen Stacy yelled at Aunt May. Aunt May stepped away, but Peter Parker had been looking for her. Now, with that being said, you have Aunt May say, I'm not coming back. And the reason why I'm not coming back is because I need to realize I was not treating you like a grown man. And so my goal now is to treat you like a grown man. Now, of course, Peter Parker does want her around because this is technically his last relative he knows of. He wants to keep this person around. But of course, Aunt May says, no, I'm going to step away and let you be a grown man. And hopefully one day we could meet up and stuff. And Aunt May leaves. And then the story ends with Hammerhead promising that he'll be back to fight against Spider-Man and also Doc Ock. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.